Welcome to Velvet Violence, the podcast where the deep dives are dark, but the seats are soft. I'm Marta, and sitting right next to me is Diliana.
Hi guys!
We are two girls obsessed with the dark side of human nature, dissecting the most twisted cases from the comfort of our living room. So get your slippers on, make yourself comfortable, and let's get stuck in.
Let's make one thing clear before we step into the darkness. We're not detectives or lawyers. We don't solve crimes. We just emotionally process them with a microphone. This podcast is a retelling of real events using publicly available sources and wrapping them in our own narrative style. It's a commentary, not a courtroom, so please don't come after us. We've seen enough true crime to know that never ends well. So today we're going to Poland. It's a bit frustrating, guys, because according to Polish laws, you cannot really show the full photographs of the people involved, and you can't even mention their full names. You've probably heard about this case. It's about Baby Madzia. By the way, guys, if you didn't know, Marta is from Poland.
Yeah, as you can tell from my accent. I've moved in here back in 2014. I think that case happened just 2 years prior of me moving here.
Yes.
So I have heard about it. I saw news. I know how the lady looked like. However, I don't really know that much. So I'm very intrigued for you to tell me what really happened.
Let me tell you what happened in Poland in a small city called Sosnowiec on Tuesday of January 24th in 2012. 22 years old Katarzyna W. was taking her 6-month-old baby on an afternoon city stroll when she noticed she was being followed by a man she didn't recognize. The man continued to follow her for a while, then he hit her on the back of the head, which caused her to collapse. Then he took the baby from the stroller and he ran away. When Katarzyna regained consciousness, she notified the police almost immediately, and police forces were called into action. They strode the whole city with the help of firefighters and civilians with the hope to find the baby. Katarzyna was able to describe the way the man was dressed, in a beige jacket with a grey strip. And while any city cameras didn't catch the incident itself, they were able to imagine clearly how he was following Katarzyna on her afternoon walk. Her story seemed very believable, and yeah, she seemed just very worried about who took her baby and where she might be. Alongside with her husband, whom I'm not gonna mention a lot in today's case because from what I've read, he really didn't want to be in the public eye. So alongside with him, Katarzyna appeared on news and she was crying and pleading for the return of her baby. They even offered a reward and stated that they wouldn't seek prosecution if the kidnapper just left the baby somewhere safe, like in a church or a window of life. People in Poland were praying for the family and they were hoping they would get their daughter back. What people of Poland didn't know, though, was that baby Madzia's mother was hiding the darkest secrets of all. Today, we're covering a case of a mother that committed the most unimaginable act that a mother could commit.
As mentioned, I could remember that, seeing her on the telly. I knew that she was the bad guy.
Yeah, she was actually. So there was a lot of red flags since the beginning. Despite the public sympathy, there was a private investigator. His name was Krzysztof R. He was very controversial in Poland, I guess, and he was flamboyant. He was former politician, and he took that case and turned it around. And when I tell you what he did, you're not gonna believe it, but I'll tell you about that later. So the first clue was the lack of witnesses. The attack happened at 6 p.m. on a quiet, busy residential area But no one saw the attack, and no one saw anyone pleading with a baby or anything like that, which was very strange.
Yeah, because you've mentioned that the cameras, right? That when police were looking around trying to find the guy, there was nothing on a CCTV.
Yeah, exactly, and that's obviously very strange because the cameras could catch Katarzyna with her stroller walking down the street, but there was nobody behind her. And even if there was, people around, they had alibis. And it's just the story didn't add up at all.
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
The second suspicious fact was, as I said, the attacker that she described with the beige jacket, he was never seen. It's just so strange because she had such a good description of him. You would think that they would definitely catch the guy immediately because the way he looked.
I want to point out though, because it's just from the early days, right? When the police was interrogating that, even they were surprised how in detail she knew who that person was. Like it was premeditated, it was planned from
She obviously thought about it a lot, I think. But there was also the physical evidence. According to doctors, Katarzyna's unconsciousness and her mild injuries didn't quite add up with the level of violence she was describing. If you say someone hit you on the back of the head that hard, that caused you to collapse to the ground, you would obviously have like some concussion or whatever. Like she had no injuries whatsoever. Her clothes were a bit ripped out and stuff, which didn't make sense because apparently he just hit her on the head, took the baby and ran out.
Right, yeah.
So that was the other thing that didn't quite align with anything that she said. And also you would have her emotional outburst. She was going to news and a lot of places to be filmed and to plead for the return of the baby. Her emotional distress very often seemed like it's on cue, and straight after filming she seemed very cold, which was quite... If you're really truly devastated, your appearance not gonna change so drastically in front of cameras and then
she was put in an act.
Yeah, exactly.
Straight away.
And it was so obvious. So I'm not sure if people in Poland actually noticed that till later on, because as I said, on TV she looked like a grieving mother who was actually truly worried what happened to the child. But as I said, it just didn't align with reality and what she was like after the cameras was off.
I guess that's why she became so popular on the media, because Poland believed what she said.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Started looking for the babies, supported her in any way they could. How did they find out that she did it?
So the facade collapsed on February 2nd of 2012. After days of claiming that her baby was kidnapped by a man in a beige jacket, Katarzyna had a meeting with that private investigator, Krzysztof. So they sat down and he really pressured her. And he told her he already knew the truth and the game was over. Little did she know that he was recording the whole conversation. Under the pressure, Katarzyna admitted that she knew that Baby Madzia was dead. However, she claimed it was a really terrible accident and that the baby slipped from her arms and hit the floor, and that's how she passed away. She claimed that she panicked and she didn't call for help because she was worried what would people think.
What the fuck?
I know, it's very frustrating. When I was reading about this case, even though it was very, very hard to find information, but it was just so heartbreaking because I'm not a mother, neither are you, but as you can imagine, if something like that happens to a person that you love, you would seek help.
Yeah, it looks like she didn't really care about that baby. Do you know what I mean? It was more what other people would think, rather than what actually happened.
It's like, would you actually think even like, oh, what would people would say? First thing it would be on your mind would be like, I need help, I need to get that person or a baby, or doesn't matter who it is, to get help.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So following her admission to basically killing her daughter, Katarzyna initially led the police on a wild goose chase, telling them to go to a location near the Przemysl River in Sosnowiec, and she claimed that that's where she'd thrown away the body. When a massive search, though, turned up to nothing, she eventually provided the correct location. The body of baby Madzia was found in a ruined wooded area of Marszałek Piłsudski Park in Sosnowiec on the night of February 3rd, 2012. Madzia was hidden in a shallow hole behind the concrete wall of a ruined building covered with heavy stones, soil, and leaves.
What a fucking bitch.
I know.
So just to get it straight, she had that interview with detective. He was recording everything. He obviously pointed, like, pressured her. She told him the truth, right?
Not the full truth.
Not the full truth. They found the body. So what happened after?
So immediately after the body was found, Katarzyna was obviously arrested, but she was primarily charged just with involuntary manslaughter, just because the police was still working on her confession that it was an accident and she just dropped the baby, and out of fear, basically, she hid it. However, the public sympathy vanished almost immediately after her story began to fall apart under the forensic scrutiny.
I'm not surprised.
Can you imagine how she led a whole country to believe her story? And then even if it was an accident, people wouldn't believe anything she says from now on.
No, of course.
It does not matter. You already lied to a whole country about something so terrifying and scary and devastating.
Yes, and like you said, loads of people believed it, because I remember my parents watching it and they were like, oh, poor girl. You know, what is this Poland, what's Poland became to, that you're just strolling on the streets, you know, evening walk, and there is a guy who just stole a baby and ran away. She was so believable on the camera. I remember that because, like I said, my parents were watching it and they were just so surprised that you can't even go out grocery shopping or just go for a walk because something bad might happen to you. And yet, she lied so bad.
It's just too horrible to believe that people are capable of this.
Yeah, and there was no remorse though.
Yeah, it's like people lying about having cancer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There is people like that as well, which is still unbelievable. But to hide the tiny body of your own child somewhere in some ruins under soil and leaves and stones, and then lie to, like, you're the victim.
What if people would believe her and she would just get on with life?
Yeah, no, fair play to this guy, Krzysztof. He's apparently very famous in Poland.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
And fair play to him, because to me, it's like he did the right thing.
Yeah.
Even if there was like a slight suspicion, it should be more digged into so they could find out the truth. And I feel like he did it so quickly, because it was literally days after all that happened. Like, even though she went already on all the news and stuff like that. Yeah,
but it's crazy though, isn't it? That they hired a detective rather than the police to do a proper investigation. So yeah, fair play to that detective that he pinned her, and you know he got an answer pretty much straight away. So what happened after?
So just hold your breath, because that's gonna frustrate you a lot. You might know about it, but after her arrest and everything, she was released on a pre-trial detention several times. And obviously Poland, they were fuming, like, that's not normal, is it?
No.
To me, it's like, if you lie about something like that, you should be in prison and wait for your trial, isn't it?
Yeah.
But obviously, as we know, guys, that's not how it works always. So during those periods when she was released, she became just a tabloid fixture. She was everywhere on the news. She even was posing for magazines, for
What?
photo shoots, yeah. She had many bikini pictures, like on a horseback, near boats, near lakes or the seaside, I'm not quite sure. And obviously people were very frustrated with that. She didn't look like a grieving mother at all. She was wearing disguises like wigs, and
Oh, lovely.
it was just so strange.
So from a murderer to a star, right?
Yeah. The most crazy thing is that at one point she stopped reporting to the police even though she was on bail, and she ran away to some small village called
Bielany Wrocławskie.
Exactly, thank you for your help. So she ran away to that village. She hid with her new then partner, because obviously with her husband they didn't stay together. And yeah, she hid there, and I'm not even sure for what period of time she was there, but gladly at some point the police actually found out where she is, and they rearrested her.
Yeah. So do you know what was her life prior to that accident?
So I know she lived in a strict household beforehand. Like, she was very young, obviously, when this case happened. She was only 22. Apparently, she had very turbulent relationship with her own mother.
Right.
So I don't know if that was causing some kind of frustration in her head, maybe. It was said about her that she was pretty much pathological liar. Her friends later said that she was very often lying, like her stories didn't quite add up. You could tell that she was trying to look more interesting, or just like to gain some sympathy.
Right.
Doesn't matter for what. That's what kind of person she was. And they also said that she kind of felt like trapped by her early marriage and her child, I guess. She got married very young. She had a child, and I feel like she lost it. She just saw that her life's never gonna be the same. It's never gonna be the free girl. Because having a child,
it's a responsibility.
For me, it's the biggest responsibility you can have. Like, to me, it's not like until they turned 18. It's a life commitment.
Of course. Okay, growing up in a Catholic family, basically from your young age, you need to go to church, you need to get baptized, and all those things. You need to follow the religion even though you not really believe it. I'm just saying from my personal view how it was when I was little. It was more forced by your school, from your parents to go and get educated, and you had that educated in religion, I mean. And I guess from what you just told me about her parents probably were strict in a way. It's hard to explain or maybe say it. I don't want to upset anyone, but I'm just saying about my own personal view on that. From very young age, you're being said what you need to follow, that you need to get married, you need to have a child, no sex before marriage, etc. She obviously got pregnant at a very young age with that bloke. Her parents forced her to get married because what people gonna say, we are Christian household. And like you said, her life just broke up. It's not like I'm trying to say that she did the right thing, of course, but
No.
It's probably from that young age, she's like, oh shit, my life is over now. And obviously she, as bad as it sounds, she just wanted to get away from that life. She wanted just to go and fucking partying and, having a photo shoot with bikini on. I still can't believe it.
That's the thing though, as you said, I know, because in Bulgaria, obviously we're not Catholics, but we're still Christian, and I feel like even though it's not so pushed these days, it's still some people feel that's the right thing to do, to get married, have children, and that's the only purpose of life.
Yeah.
Which, guys, I've always said that, as Marta said as well, that we're just sharing our opinions, but to me, not every person is meant to be a parent. You shouldn't feel pressure, about something that's gonna affect only and only your life.
Yeah.
Nobody else's. Obviously, partner and stuff like that. But you should make decisions for yourself because you're the one who's gonna take responsibility about those decisions. So to me, it's like, I know I have kind of family as well that they kind of push you, have children, get married, and that's the right thing. But it's 21st century.
Yeah.
We live in a free world. To me, it's like, if you don't want and you're not really ready to commit to something so serious, just don't have children.
Yeah.
And if you do, because accidents happen, there is thousands of people in the world that want children. You can always give it for adoption.
Exactly.
It's
And why the fuck she decided to do that? Just kill the baby because it's going to be a better option rather than just put it to adoption. You did mention we do have in Poland, we've got a window of life. So basically it's a facility that's open 24/7. You've got a little window, you open it, and you've got a cot inside. Once you put a baby in it, you can just run. Like, there is no cameras, nothing from the outside, obviously. So you can stay anonymous. You can leave the baby there, and the bell will ring that there is someone on that cot. And you've got nurses, they coming in and taking care of the baby. And then eventually they will put it for adoption. You know, so even though I know in Poland you can't get abortion, is forbidden, but you've got that option. But I believe what the problem is that it's not the Catholic way. You've done your boo-boo, you need to, live with it. And that's just very sad, It's very sad what happened to 6 months child that could have an amazing life with a family that, would love her. So what happened at the trial then?
So the trial happened the following year, in 2013. It happened in Katowice District Court, and they handed down their verdict. It was the most watched trial in a Polish history.
I can imagine, yeah.
So during the trial, expert psychologists and psychiatrists, they spent hours and hours evaluating Katarzyna, and their findings were very revealing. They found out that she had a very high level of narcissism, and she also had a need of attention. They also noted that she saw her child as an obstacle. They concluded that Katarzyna viewed little Madzia as not as her daughter, but as a limitation to her freedom. So she wanted a life of a young, free and happy woman. She wanted to be going to clubs and having fun pretty much. And with the baby, she couldn't do that. She couldn't travel, and she couldn't have that free life and, as she saw, was a happy life. Crucially, the experts noted also that she didn't have any mental illness. She was a completely sane person, and she knew right from wrong.
That's good.
And she simply chose her own interest instead of her child's.
That's good, because if they would find something, she can just go to psychiatric hospital for a few months maybe, or a year, and she would be released and she would become a TV star again.
I know, and to be fair, I'm glad that people actually caught her so quickly, because I guess they didn't even have time to find different aspects of the case and to find a little door out and little way out. So what struck the most the Polish public though was the lack of the emotional in her. During the trials, you could see she was going to the court with her hair perfectly done, with her very quite heavy makeup as well, and she didn't seem like a grieving mother, although just a year prior, when all that happened, she was completely different person on the news. She was literally that heartbroken person who just lost their child, and she was very believable. And also you can tell, since the story broke, that she actually did it. Even first, when she claimed it was just an accident, her whole demeanor changed. To the public, also, those horseback rides in a bikini, that was very telling. She's awaiting trial doing that kind of shit. it doesn't seem very like, I don't know, there's no sympathy anymore for
No.
that person. She just broke the trust of a whole nation.
So what was the verdict? How many years she got? Life, I hope?
So the conviction of Katarzyna was actually a landmark in the Polish forensics because, as I said, she never admitted that she did it, and she kind of did, but it was obviously like as an accident.
Yeah.
She never admitted that she actually planned it or anything like this. So prosecutors actually had to dismantle her accident story, and they had to prove through basically combination of medical evidence and the digital footprints, and they had to do the psychological profiling as well. So their findings prove that she did it, and I'll tell you exactly how. Katarzyna claimed that Madzia fell on the floor, she hit her head, and that's how she died. However, the autopsy showed completely different story. Pathologists, they found a tiny ruptured blood vessels and very specific cellular changes that could only occur during a prolonged active asphyxiation. Experts testified that those changes take several minutes to develop. If Madzia had died during that horrible incident, those changes would have never occurred actually. They proved that the baby was alive during the fall and it was smothered afterwards. So the defense, they had their own story. So they started to argue that the fall caused the closing of the vocal cords that actually led to the suffocation. The state, though, they actually said that for this to be fatal in a healthy infant, Madzia should have had a previous medical problems,
Right, yeah.
or some underlying medical issue, which she didn't have. Using a crash test dummy, the investigators showed that if the baby had fallen from the height that Katarzyna described, there wouldn't be such fatal injuries. It was physically impossible. So there was the digital evidence also. The police seized the family computer and they found an evidence for premeditation, which destroyed the panic defense. They found out that days before Madzia's death, there was some pretty disturbing searches on that computer. Pretty much that was tracked later on to Katarzyna's login. So she was searching for how to kill without leaving trace.
What?
Carbon monoxide poisoning. It's just so horrible. The other search was funeral costs for a child. How to collect insurance after child's death.
Ah, lovely. So she wanted to gain some money after as well.
And it's just horrible, man. And obviously the conclusion is you don't search for shit like that. If your child just died in an accident, it's so freaking obvious. Prosecutors also pointed to her immediate actions after the death as a cold and calculated. So she didn't call for an ambulance, she just took her baby, wrapped it in some blanket or jacket or whatever, and she took it to that place where she just
buried it.
Yeah, just buried it under like some rubbish pretty much. Then she also walked to some different location where she actually hit herself in the head, put some dirt on her clothing and shit like that. And I'm like, it's just so horrible to think that after what she's just done, her mind was like, okay, I need to cover it up now and make the perfect story.
No remorse, it just shows you her features of being narcissist. She didn't care what happened to the baby. She just cared about herself, and that's what's just proven of what you told me just now.
Yeah, that's what they actually said. They said a caring mother wouldn't do this. She would try to revive the baby. She would try to help it. She would try anything in her power to basically save that baby, because that should be the most important thing in her whole life.
Yeah.
So in the end, the Silesian District Court ruled that Katarzyna first threw the baby on the floor Then she smothered it with a pillow or her hands. And then minutes after, the baby was dead. So because she had searched how to kill and all that things that I told you previously, she was sentenced to premeditated murder.
Good. So, where is she now? Please, tell me the good news.
Also, as of 2026, she's serving her sentence in the Lublinets women's prison. It is said on the media that she's a very difficult inmate. She keeps to herself, and apparently she had a lot of incidents with other prisoners because apparently the child offenders, they're on the bottom list.
Good.
In Polish prison. And her husband, he did divorce her and he moved to UK apparently, so he can escape all the media and to start a new life basically. The saddest that I feel about is that man. I can't even imagine what he's gone through and how he's gonna come after it. It's been years already, so I hope he's doing well and I just wish him the best.
Yeah, I remember him on telly, but they were both there, but if I remember that correctly, he had a wig on. He didn't really want to show his real face, even though, they were looking for a baby, etc. Still, at that point, obviously, he wasn't aware of what happened. But you could see how hurt he is, you could see that, yes, he actually lost the baby and he's grieving, he still had hopes. Yeah, it's just so sad to be in relationship with someone that you have a baby with, you want to start a happy life, and your wife is killing your baby because she didn't want that life. She wanted to have a party life because she's 22 years old.
Do you know what I think it's the most ridiculous thing in this case?
Go on.
Because her husband, from what I've read, he was a good guy. Why she just didn't divorce him and leave the baby with him?
Yeah.
It's so simple, guys. It's just, I don't understand why people don't really think logically and okay, people will maybe crucify you or whatever. They'll say you're a shitty person, you're a shitty mother. But what about now? Are you a better person in their eyes? No. So,
yeah, but she didn't think about that. She didn't care. All she wanted to, regardless, she just cared about herself. In Polish law, divorces, oh my god, you don't really see them that often. So okay, it probably was as being narcissist, caring about herself, caring about the public eye, and also if she would leave the baby with her husband, she would still have to pay him, right? She probably wanted to lose that, spend that money for something else. She was thinking by choosing that worst option possible, she will have a better life, because still she would be the mother, the baby is alive, and people would start talking about her, how dare she, leaving the baby and moving on with her life. I think that's what she had, that's why she went to the extreme, unfortunately. We will never understand it because we actually got the remorse and we care about others. She didn't, and it's fucked up. It's a shame that she just didn't go to therapy and started to live on her life, but obviously she didn't see a point.
So that's the other thing. I feel like she cared so much about what people think of her. I think that's why she went so far as well, because if it would be someone else, because there is a lot of people out there that they get divorced and they leave the child and that child never knows that other parent that left.
Yeah.
Which is, I get that people will say, oh, that's terrible, how can you leave your child? But is it that terrible if you know you're not gonna be a good parent to this child? Is it that bad? And don't get me wrong, obviously it's still your responsibility because you had that child. But in the end of the day, if you know in your heart you're not gonna be able to take care of that child, you're not gonna be able to give them the best that they deserve, why wouldn't you either give it for adoption or leave it with a parent that actually will do their best?
Yeah.
To me, that's not so selfish, is it?
It is, yeah, very. And it's just so sad. How long? So she's there for life, yeah, in prison. She got the life sentence, or?
She had a 25 years, I think, from what I've read, but I reckon she will try to get a plea.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
When that sentence comes closer. But I don't know if they will let her go. I think they might. I'm not saying that they will, but I think they might, because do I think she's a threat to other people? Oh, if I have to be honest, probably not.
No, but
unless she has more children.
I was
don't
going
know.
to say that,
But
if she would be released to the world, and there might be a guy that's totally unaware of what she's done. She can lie. You said she was just making up stories, and she was making her life look better. She would come out, she would start another family, and this might happen again. You don't know that. But yeah,
but come on, when she comes out, she's not gonna be I'm not obviously putting anything out there, but she's gonna be at certain age that it's not gonna be anymore the prime of her life when she feels like she needs to party and stuff. And I'm not saying she should go out. In my opinion, she should stay in prison till the rest of her life. But I know that's not how it works. If she doesn't even get in trouble in prison, because as I said, people there don't like her either. Because child offender, apparently they're treated very badly by other prisoners in the Polish system.
Well, that's good. Imagine, there are lots of women in a prison that committed some sort of crimes, and they probably have kids out there.
Yeah.
They stuck in prison for ages, and you've got a prisoner who comes in, and you've been told that that person killed her baby, and had no remorse whatsoever. Of course they're gonna be a bottom feeder. Of course they're gonna be slagged off and had the worst time. And it's good, because that's what prison is for. They should fucking, they should, I'm just getting frustrated now, but yes, they should act the same way as she acted, out in outside world.
In the end of the day, the thing that, I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional again, but in the end of the day, that poor baby didn't even stand a chance.
No.
Because she was so young that she wouldn't even remember those 6 months of her life, because her life was taken from her so early that she almost didn't have any.
6 months, that's, nothing.
It's it's so horrible, and it just frustrates me, because this child was supposed to be happy and healthy with her dad.
Yeah.
And her mom should have just left, disappeared, moved to another city, country, whatever, and just lived her own life.
Yeah. No, she didn't think about that.
If she was so afraid of what people would think, just go find new people and that's it. Don't murder your only one child.
Yeah.
Very sad case, guys. And as I said, just be better, do better choices than the people that we're talking about every Sunday, and just stay safe out there. If you enjoy what we're talking about, not enjoy, but find it interesting, let's say, please like, subscribe, and we'll be here for you every week.
Yes, we are here on every Sunday. So please, if you like what we're doing, let us know, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye. Occur to active and prolonged asphyxiation vessels, and the specific specific cellular changes that can only occur in the lungs. Yes, specific cellular changes which could. Marta will be here all day.
Clearly, for one fucking sentence, bro.
Occur during a prolonged active asphyxiation.
There we go.
Fucking boom!
You're gonna be on bloopers on that one for sure.